I journey through the darkness, through the deepest and the hardest. I wear the scars like tattoos, every single break and bruise, so I know what the cost is. I'll go through anything to get where I want to be. Nothing you throw at me.
Well, everybody's talking about the first Harley they own. Well, this is the bike that started it all for me. This 1990 Softail Springer. This is the bike me and my dad would be out in the garage working on, fixing. This is what got me into Harleys and the motorcycle culture. Friends would come over, we would tinker on their bikes, but he would throw me the keys to this bike when I was old enough to ride legally. Well, probably a little before legal, but I'm gonna take you for a ride on this 1990 Softail Springer and talk a little bit more about it. So let's go for a ride. Well, let's get into this 1990 Softail Springer. Give you a few more details about it. Well, Springers are unique on their own. You really don't see many of them anymore. But with this one being lowered, it really has no suspension. So you feel just about every single bump. And then with it having a 21-inch front wheel with a tube in it, it's not your performance bike. It's good to sit back and just enjoy the ride. Good straightaways. You don't have cruise control. Trip meter don't work. So if I'm gonna go out for a distance, I'm headed straight to the gas station. Because if it's been a little while and I can't remember how many miles I've been, I'd rather just go to the gas station, fill up, even if it's $1 or $2. That way I don't run out of gas, or I'm somewhere where there's not a gas station near me. Even though it's got a reserve, I don't know how long that reserve's gonna last. But this is the bike that started it all, being out there in the garage working on it. It'll eventually come to me, and I won't do nothing to this bike except keep it running. I mean, the bike sat in the garage for a while, and then finally my dad put an S&S 80 cubic inch back in her. That way we could still ride her. I mean, the bike had probably over 160,000 miles. I mean, you would have to take both speedometers when the trip meters were working and add them together. It's not like the digital ones where they just keep rolling over. Well, a lot of people talk about the first Harley they own, or possibly the first Harley they rode. Well, I can say this is the first Harley I rode, but this is also the first Harley I started working on with my dad. Be out in the garage, fixing her, adding parts, and I enjoyed it. Some really great memories for me. And it's progressed from there. Learning how to build the engines, how to paint the bikes, how to powder coat. You know, if I didn't start at an early age, I don't know if I'd be as much into the bikes as I am. I might be, but I don't know. But I started at an early age. Some people don't start riding until they're in their 40s, late 20s, later in life, really, and never learn how to work in their own bike. Even for the simple things. But I just find it fascinating, and I'm in my own little world when I'm working on my bikes.
Well, with getting the old girl out, I had to find somewhere cool to take some pictures of her. And I'll throw those up here. But I got a comment on a post I made. That ain't old, it don't have a kickstart. Well, what do you consider old? I mean, technically, this is old. I mean, if you look at all the technology that has come out on the bikes lately with traction control, the ABS, throttle-by-wire, fuel injection, navigation, this is old, because this bike has none of that. Well, I could add a kickstart to my Sportster. It's just an easy kit. Well, I wouldn't say easy, there's a lot to it, but I can still add a kickstart to a newer bike than this. So in retrospect, I consider this old. And then you got the pan heads, the knuckleheads, iron heads. I consider it even older or even ancient, if you're going by technology. But learning how to work on this bike, I find the carbureted bike so much easier to work on, because if you change out a pipe, an air cleaner, all you gotta do is check the spark plugs, see if it's running rich or lean. So if it's running rich, change out your jet. And the same thing with lean. You don't have to take it into a dyno, have it remapped. So if you don't like the sound of something, it's real easy to just change it out. Because with my bagger being fuel injected, I don't touch any of that. I mean, I'll let the ECM do its job and auto map, but I'm not playing around with the fuel to air ratio and mess something up. Because a lot of numbers, a lot of looking at things, and if you don't know what you're doing, can really mess something up. The older bikes were just simple. A lot more simple wiring. You didn't have all the electronics. But that's what I learned to work on. I'm not saying I can't work on something newer, but there's a certain degree of what I can do to them. I mean, if you change out the radio, change anything out really, you have to have it remapped or reflashed for the ECM. I don't have that problem with this bike, or even my Sportster.
Well, after about 80 to 100 miles, I'm ready to get off the bike and stretch my legs, because the air cleaner being pushed out further to clear the tank makes it a little bit uncomfortable for me, because my legs having to wrap around it. So that's a little bit of a drawback for myself, because I'm not a tall person, but someone taller probably wouldn't have an issue. And it makes it where I have very little of the foot peg to rest my foot on. But still, she's still a fun bike. She's an old bike and just all around fun, and she started it all for me. So I wouldn't change a thing about her, because my dad set her up the way he wanted it set up, and that's the way I'm leaving it. But I hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you guys next time.